back, Schmook here, and of course, we're here to talk about HBO's latest hit series, The Last of Us. So, episode 5 came out Friday, last night, which is different than usual, Sunday, you know. Reasoning for that, of course, is the Super Bowl being on Sunday, and of course, you don't want to go up against that behemoth. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the episode itself. I thought it was a brilliant episode. I think it might be the best one. I can't tell. I still think the first episode's like ultimately the best because I think that the prologue is just gold. Um, but with this episode has killer action, and then the Sam and Henry stuff is incredible. And I knew they were gonna hit hard with this story from the game because I always thought it was one of the better parts of the game. Of course, we meet Sam and Henry, and what's different from the game is that they make Sam deaf, and he has leukemia and all that. So it's cool that they add more to like why Henry, other than just being Sam's brother, why Henry is trying to protect Sam. Of course it's his brother, but there's way more to it. It's like in a world that this kid is born into, and he still has to go through crazy stuff with being deaf and then having cancer as well. So I thought that was an interesting change. I really liked how they made Sam deaf. I was kind of nervous about it. Same with what they did with Bill and Frank. I was curious how they were gonna have that relationship between Sam and Ellie be. So I always thought that was a very good thing from the game because they're just two kids, in this apocalypse, and they get to be kids, and that's what they were able to hammer that quite well. I felt in this episode where they're in that little kids the kids safe haven in the tunnels, like there's like a goal, just drawing on a wall that just says a goal, which is what are you gonna do. I thought that was good though. I thought that like them just be able to have fun, laugh, and play. I like how Sam communicates with Ellie via this, like it's like an etch a sketch basically. Excuse me. Oh, anyway. But yeah, I think they casted Henry very well. I really liked how he acted. He was very he was a little different from the game, I will say. In the game, Henry is definitely more like outspoken, more like "What's up?" Where in this, he was more like he's just doing everything he can to protect his brother. Like he's on the run from the resistance leader, which I thought I was liking her character a bit more than she just doesn't like rats, which I get. If you're a leader, you don't want someone who's going to go behind your back. And Joel's even like, "Oh, you're a rat. I don't work with rats." And he's like, "Well, I had to do what I had to do, And today you're gonna work with a rat because I'm gonna get you out of this place." And he does. Then we get to a part in the episode that I thought was brilliant. Of course, like I liked all the dialogue between Sam and Henry. Like, you're not her father, but you're somebody's. And like how he can tell that this man's gonna protect Ellie no matter what, which I really appreciated. Um, but then we get to when they get out of the tunnels and they're out of the city. They're in more of the suburbs of, well, not suburbs, but just outside of the city of Kansas City, um, which I liked because again, it was cool. Being from Missouri, it's cool to see one of like a city that I've been to a few times, and but then it gets to this point where it's very much so like the video game where they're just on this like they're in this like little subdivision. There's just a house at the end of the block, and it's nighttime. I will say I feel like there's gonna be a reason there's gonna be a good amount of flack on this episode is that it was pretty dark. It was a pretty dark episode, like lit, um, like darkly lit episode, like the long night episode in Game of Thrones. I can see how people are probably gonna complain a little bit. Uh, but again, I thought it was still fine. But I know I was watching it with some buddies last night. They were even talking like, "Oh, this is pretty dark. It's hard to see what's really going on here." But I still thought it was fine. But regardless, but anyway, so it's nighttime, which is different from the game. But there's this guy at the end of the house sniping them down. So Joel's like, "Get down." Joel's just a man who's able to just haul it and able to get inside of the house like without being seen. And I love this human aspect of Joel, where he even has a gun on the guy who's sniping at him. He's just like, dude, just don't do it. Just don't make me kill you here. It's just nuts. But the guy, he still makes the move. And you find out that he's like an informant for the resistance, because he has like a radio and whatnot. And when he doesn't, obviously radio back to them, that's where they're like, oh, that's where they are. They just took our guy out. So Joel is on the sniper, which is basically from the game too, but it's different how they do this whole thing. Is of course these raiders have more character now. This resistance, right? I like how they just roll up in like these heavily armored trucks. Joel's trying to shoot him, and I like that whole sequence of like Ellie running from it. But then it's just Sam, Henry, and Ellie behind a car, and the leader is trying to be like, hey, I need you to come out now, because this is where you're gonna die, basically. And then I like how Henry, even in this moment's like, just let the kids go. Henry's just a good guy, right? And she's like, I'm just not gonna do that. And I'm like, oh, this bitch, like she's nuts. Regardless, Henry's about to go out, and he does, and he talks to her a little bit, and she, like, her seeing his face again is just like, because like, I mean, of course they were like tight, they had to be, for her to be this locked in on Henry. But then they luck out, but not really, because they open up like a hive, right? And it's it was just a ton of clickers and like just come out, and then eventually the big boy, the bloater, right? And that was sick to see. Like, he just comes out, he's just huge, he's hulking. When he just rips like the leader's right hand man's like head right off, I'm like, oh my god. Then there was one sequence which I thought was like terrifying. This is what I think's been missing from the show. Like, I love all the human aspects of this show. I am missing the zombie stuff because it's haunting. Because like when Ellie's in the car with like a little girl clicker, I'm like, oh dude, this is a terrifying look. Like, they didn't really have that in the games. It's just this little girl who's a clicker and just it's chasing after Ellie. I'm like, dude, this is like Exorcist type stuff. Like, it's terrifying. And eventually that's brought back when the leader gets absolutely mauled by this little girl, and I'm like, whoa, this is terrifying stuff. So I thought it was awesome. And then, of course, we get to the end of the episode where we find out that Sam actually got bit, which is different from the game because he actually shows it to Ellie. He's like, stay up with me, blah, blah, blah. In the game, Ellie just goes into the room and finds out that he turned, and he didn't know. But all this was pretty much identical to the game, like how this all went down eventually. But Ellie stays up with Sam, and he turns, and like she's like screaming. Joel comes in, and then he's just trying to grab the gun. I like that Henry just like starts shooting at Joel. Like, no, Henry has to be the one to do it, because he knows he has to act here. He's like, I have to do it. But it's hard, but he's the one who has to put his brother down. And he knew that. And Joel at that moment was just like, I have to protect Ellie. But Joel gets it. But then I like how Joel's just like, dude, it's not anyone's fault. It happens. But Henry's just like blaming himself, like, what did I do? What did I do? And then he's freaking out. The acting was very, very superb here. By whoever the actor is. I really liked what he did with Henry. But of course, Sam's dead, and then just like that, in an instant, Henry pulls the gun on himself and kills himself. And I'm like, wow. Like, they hammered, like, it's almost identical to the game, how it's done. And I thought that was brilliant. Even before this, though, when it's just Sam and Ellie talking, like, the night of. I like how, are you afraid of anything? And Ellie's like, scorpions, which is exactly from the game, but then she's like, afraid of being alone. Which is crazy. Identical dialogue, and then like again, the difference is he shows the bite. It's like, stay up with me, and she's like, okay, because they formed a bond. They became friends. It sucks. And then Joel's like, Henry's a good guy, so he liked working with him. But again, they just ultimately both die out after this whole episode getting to know them, and that's just how it was in the game too. Like, you don't spend that much time with these characters, but you care about them because they're very human, and that's what's the most brilliant thing about The Last of Us. Like, you know who's the truly good of The Last of Us, you know? Even though sometimes you have to do bad things, which is Joel, you know? And we'll see that here in a bit. Next episode's going to be pretty crazy. I already know. If you look at the sneak peek, obviously Joel meets up with Tommy at wherever he's staying at, which it appears to be different from the game where he's at like a water dam. In this, it looks like he's just in some like western town, which is cool. I think that'll be a good change. But then he's gonna meet Tommy, and Tommy's gonna give him and Ellie's gonna give Joel and Ellie a little bit of information about where he could find some fireflies. He's gonna tell him to go to this one place, and then the way this episode's gonna end is gonna blow people's minds, and you're gonna want more immediately. So episode 6 is gonna end with a cliffhanger, guaranteed. I can already tell how they're piecing the show together from the game, because again, I figured how this episode is gonna end with the death of Sam and Henry. I would tell you guys, but I don't want to spoil it because I think this is a beautiful story. But it's going to end on a cliffhanger, and then episode 7 is just going to be a full prequel, or like it's going to be the prequel DLC from the game, where it's just Ellie and her friend, Ellie and, what's her name? Riley? Yeah, Ellie and Riley. It's going to be called Left Behind, which is the DLC. So episode 7 is going to be cool. It's going to be it's how you're going to be able to, you're going to get to know Ellie more, which is great. Which is the intriguing part, because then episode 8 is going to be a fully Ellie episode, and then Joel too, but a bit. You'll know by the end of the episode, but like episode 8, I know is piecing together to be an unbelievable episode, and then 9 is going to just blow people's minds. The way this show is going to, or this season's going to end, people are just going to lose it. Trust me. You're going to love and hate Joel, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it. I think episode 5 has been my favorite episode besides the first one, for sure. But I think it's how I felt with episode 4, so I think it's going to keep getting better and better. But I think next week we'll feel a little bit more slow, I would say, compared to this one. This one was very action-packed. But I know once we get to episode 8, the things are going to really kick off, and that's when you're going to get a ton of action with episode 8 and 9. So look forward to it, guys. I guess we gotta wait till next Sunday now, which is a little over a week away, but I look forward to episode 6. Bring it on. Give me more Last of Us. All right, guys, I'll catch you all very soon, and have a great Saturday, and I look forward to the Super Bowl tomorrow, and I hope you all are too. All right, peace out, guys.